Oceane, born of the earth and the sea, hoped for the coming of the part of herself which had been stolen from her in an earlier distant life. Only she had settled 2 steps from the ocean in a modest house. The waves that came to die on the banks reminded him of his sad destiny. She bogged down day after day in the dark, her wandering soul of hope in hope of better days. At that time of her life, she did not have the slightest awareness of the heavy fate hovering over her head. She settled near the ocean. When her eyes plunged into the deep, unfathomable blue of this sea, she led her mind astray, a reflection of too vast a range of misunderstandings of the spells that life held for her. Solitude had never frightened her, even though most of the time she liked him. Her thoughts navigating along the breadcrumb trail of his past, searching for answers that could explain the curse that afflicted her soul. She had a pure and sincere soul, looking for the side of the light. She gently, in herself, forged her strength of character. This did not efface melancholy in his heart. She closed the door to her feelings to concentrate her efforts to build herself, like a zircon, hard and indestructible. Only, even if she had closed her heart to all feelings, a part of herself was reserving herself to welcome into her womb, a being apart who will come to deliver her from her sufferings. A decade had passed under the mistral. Still watching the unfathomable ocean, his eyes absorbing the reflections of light of this rough and stormy water. Her eyes caught the slightest bit of light coming to her. Like a black hole in interstellar space, his body absorbed all existing energy from places around. The isolated place she lived was like a rocky desert. That pebbles and still pebbles seemed to extend to infinity. Despite the darkness of his aura, he sometimes closed his eyes and under his eyelids to see the deployment of wings of bright and majestic butterflies. If sleep won her, her butterflies gave way to a nightmarish world. At each full moon, when it was midnight, she was heading for the ocean, which welcomed her body engulfing her in the cold and the uncertainty. This ritual was born on his 19th birthday. That night, she had walked barefoot on the pebbles. The ocean touched his foot and invited him into him. Dazzled and fascinated by her mystery, she moved out to sea until her feet floated for a moment, then her head immersed under the water. She had to let go of life. The water entered his nostrils and flooded his lungs. The ocean took hold of her body and soul. His eyes that were closed suddenly opened, piercing the darkness of the abyss. She took a deep breath, it was the salty water flowing in her. Breathing thus, she erected her blood with crystals from the deepest bowels of the earth. A power seeking refuge in the depths of the center of the earth had followed its path until the day when it emerged from all its power concentrated in this woman with a unique destiny. The stars had sketched the circumstances that sounded the rendezvous of Oceane with the dark and untouchable forces of the earth. On the day of her 19th birthday she became the union of water and earth. The pact she made with these elements will give her a body to eternal youth. She was the embodiment of the forces of good and evil. Her mind constantly disturbed by contradictions, she had to be ruthless and always slice her ideas for good. Oceane had no conscience war since the last 15 years was preparing for an advent. The full moon sent her face back to the mirror that formed the ocean that night. Oceane let herself be embraced in the arms of the cold waters. His body still felt the call of the cold and the north. Confident in her inner compass, she let herself be guided. Her hearing caught a sound in the wind. A soft whisper that overstepped his personal boundaries. In the distance she saw what appeared to be a ship. Observing the position of the stars against the ship, she found that it seemed to drift. Until morning she watched the ship in the distance. As the sun rose, she fell asleep against a rock at the edge of the beach. She flinched and came out of her sleep suddenly. The sound of a paddle against the water was getting closer to her. A man aboard a boat was coming towards her. She straightened up to greet the stranger lost at sea. The man, short of breath, exhausted from his drift, landed his boat. With eagerness, she went to assist the shipwrecked. Oceane's hand rested on the man's shoulder. Time seemed to settle for a moment. Strange visions furrowed his mind. While she was still staring at the void, he reached out his hand and grabbed Oceane's arm. He said to her, "I heard the sound of a siren and I followed his voice to find my way here." She turned her face to him and without thinking she gave him a kiss. A spark crossed their eyes. From that moment, they knew that their destiny had crossed forever. Their inner vibrations were like two swirls in the heart of the ocean, attracting each other and swirling in opposite directions until the fusion of the two swirls, annihilating their individual strength. Their individual energy thus dissipating, seeming to vanish, was in fact the coming of the most powerful energy that the earth has brought. From where he was at sea, the man had no idea where the land was. He was alone in the middle of this still water, not knowing what direction to take his way. He will find it in the hope that a voice he heard would lead him to earth. This melodious sound, oscillating like a wave, came to his ear when the wind blew those notes to his ear. When the wind fell, the sweet melody faded. He remained confident that this voice would not leave him and that the wind would still blow for him. As soon as they had met each other, Oceane and the shipwrecked had fallen madly in love. Losing the notion of their environment under their kisses, they had not known about the subtle changes in their universe. Oceane had seen in the sky the imminent arrival of two comets. Their trajectory would cross a few light years from the Earth, but the impact of their meeting would have repercussions on the entire universe. Passion obsessed the minds of Oceane and man, when in the sky an opening seemed to dissociate heaven and earth. The emptiness created at the speed of light, gave the impression of sucking the whole ocean towards him. A shower of water rose to the sky and at the same time, there was an impact between the comets. Their collision resulted in the fusion of two astral bodies. Comets no longer existed. They had become an energetic point in the center of the universe. The known universes of the shamans of that time related that there were two universes that levitated in outer space. One had the shape of a circle from which the galaxies held their orbits. The other was shaped like an infinite eight. The Earth was in this universe. After periods of grace, the planet was directed to a passage to the point of gravity. This point was at the junction which is detected at the center of the eight. The planet then passing by this point was then annihilated. For 3 days the Earth disappeared from the map of the universe. In fact, under the effect of gravity that would exert this point on the planet, it would implode. The matter that made up the Earth was condensing into a single neutron. Once ejected from the point of gravity, the neutron would decompose at an exponential rate to recreate the Earth. However, life as we know it no longer exists. The Earth had to recreate life from each atom that made it up to creation to be complex like the human being. Matter, however, had a memory that it had to find a solution to the point of gravity. This point was to disappear. With the memory of the matter, the Earth will use of its gravitational attraction to attract to her the solution. 2 zircons. 2 wandering zircons each in their universe began to move. There is something of that since the rebirth of the Earth after its last extinction. The void left by the planet that had disappeared for 3 days had mobilized the zircons towards this void that created an inter-universe magnetism. The 2 zircons would speed up their race to create their own magnetism. Sliding in space they attracted particles of fallen stars and planets to them, until the zircons were hidden in the center of this new rock formation and ice, the comets. Their magnetism and attraction were so great that they went straight to each other at the point of gravity. At the point of contact of the circular universe with the infinite universe, the circular forms in the form of 8 would be detached, to unite with the other circle and thus formed a new universe where there would be no more point of gravity. This universe, the result of the fusion of 2 distinct universes, would form a perpetual motion. The Earth would no longer be extinct. She would know eternity. The fusion of comets took place in 2011. At the age of 33 and 44, Oceane and her man had just undergone an extreme transformation. Without showing his appearances, it was to merge at the same instant as the universes their lives. 2 bodies, but 1 soul, 1 spirit. So love is defined. True, the one and only love on earth is equal to the absolute value, 0. If their love is equal to a null value, it is not that it does not exist. Because it exists so intensely that it becomes a point of attraction. It generates unbounded magnetism. It seems to be non-existent, but yet it does exist, more powerful than ever. Souls are not material and survive the cataclysms. The fraction of a moment before the Earth implodes, she stored all her knowledge in 2 souls. Each soul contained half the knowledge of the universe. These 2 souls were to meet before the Earth again succumbs to the point of gravity. Centuries passed and souls were embodied in human bodies. At each reincarnation, came the failure of the mission of souls, because the dark side of the forces of the earth removed souls from each other. Never finding their soul mate, these bodies would die without having united their hearts. The next planetary extinction was scheduled for 2012. If the astral bodies had not found their soul mate, they had acquired knowledge that remained in their soul after the disappearance of their physical body. According to the moment when the movement of the two zircons floating in the interstellar space of their distinct universe began, the souls in which knowledge had been stored up to unite their destiny to these stars. It was so, each soul attaches its destiny to a star, this one guiding the life of the one who will incarnate this soul. Universal knowledge was in two souls that sought to incarnate and reincarnate until it is found, thus fusing and freeing the earth from the point of gravity. However, there was a count. The year 2012 marked the year of the next earthly destruction. The maximum age of Oceane cannot exceed 33 years, while that of his man was 44 years. The pact that Oceane had sealed with the water and the earth completed her reign, for although she had eternal life, that of the earth was soon to end under a destructive implosion. Particle crystals that had remained in his blood since his pact began to want to amalgamate because of the magnetic force that was suddenly shifting on the earth. Oceane fell into a deep coma. In the arms of her man, she seemed asleep. The love they felt for each other was deep and sincere. The man suddenly heard the siren singing the leader, Oceane in the arms of the ocean. Without thinking, he stepped into the water. Oceane's body floated for a moment on the surface, to sink under the waves. His man was still hearing the voice of the mermaid who was saying to him, breathing. He then took a deep breath and the salty liquid invaded his copse. An energy propelled him then towards the body of Oceane who was engulfed. He caught her and got out of the water with her, exhausted. That day, Oceane should have died, according to her destiny. This drop in the ocean was now too much on the earth, but his man, ignoring that, had given a year of his earthly life to save the life of the woman of his life. In turn, he made a pact with water and earth. The spirit of this water and this earth was embodied in Oceane. She regained consciousness on the edge of the beach, beside her man. She held out her hand to hers. An emptiness, a black hole opened above their heads. Absorbing their fear, they redirected this energy into an immeasurable love power. The souls of Oceane and her man met at a specific point, love. The love that united them was so great and so powerful that it created the explosion of the black hole. The circular universe, that of water and earth, Oceane. The strength of their love had finally led the destiny of the two souls containing knowledge to a meeting place from which the perpetual movement will be born. His man had yielded a year of his earthly life to save the woman of his life, Oceane. If their love had not been sincere, there would have been no fusion of their universe. This crazy amorous couple, was not she more than him, it was her in him in her. This fusion of love gave off an energy becoming exponential in time. This love, always stronger every day, radiated and emanated around them. Fate always has two faces. That of light and that of catacombs. The power of the dark force is very powerful, but if he had won that day, Oceane life would have gone away and selfishness incarnated in humanity would have diverted his man from his will to save his life. Wife. He sacrificed a year of his earthly life to give it to Oceane, to slow down time in a way. That day, she knew that she owed her life. The force of the water and the land inhabiting her, she threw herself at the feet of her man when she learned what he had done to save her. Assailed by constant and deep anxieties, the pain was heavy in his heart. Her heart became so dark for a moment that she felt nothing, no emotion, no feeling. The dark force was trying to rob him of love. The man questioned Oceane and asked her if she was in love with him. No longer able to trust what she felt, because the emotional vibrations had left her heart, she offered him the answer. Yes. This affirmation, truer than true, she knew that even if love did not show itself, it really existed. The need to see or touch in order to validate one's truths is arbitrary. Love that has no smell, yet is a feeling felt. It is anchored deep within us and even if we do not always see it, it exists. The earth, the sea, and the sky are united that day by a love merge. Two souls guided by their stars have led their destiny towards the most beautiful manifestation of life, love. For eternity their hearts had melted into what appeared to be an invisible point, but with all the energy that radiates from this invisible point, brings the proof that love exists. The past has not known love. The present gave the opportunity to believe it. This faith has anchored in the future the existence of a love fusion. Love is always a fraction momentarily behind the future, because the amorous fusion of the present moment must again make anchors in the future, so that this love endures eternity. The amorous folly of Oceane and her man, where it was sunny every day, needed to better appreciate the time available to them. His man blew the air as it moved, while Oceane murmured his siren song, calling rain to the sky. The blue sky gave way to a grey weather and drops of rain began to fall. This gloomy weather, however, cast no shadow on their love. It now allowed them to better appreciate the days of good weather available to them. He wore a ring on Oceane finger adorned with a zircon, a precious stone of 4.4 billion years. The memories buried deep in Oceane heart resurfaced, revealing her knowledge, but also her faults. Oceane also wearing a ring on the finger of his man, the silence being golden. The exchange of their love on this rainy day was an occasion to shine all the drops of rain. Their radiance was so intense that the tears also blew on their cheeks. It was tears of joy and gratitude. The past serves as a lesson. The present is the perfume of the future. The future is creation in this present moment.